worried. I was getting worried. No problem, I'm glad you're here. Okay, so for those of you who do not know me, my name is Kimberly Mudd, and I serve as the District Curriculum Coordinator. Welcome to the 25-26 Math Textbook Adoption Vendor Presentation. We have a very tight schedule, and I don't want to take up much time, so I'm just going to say we have 3 amazing vendors that are here. First, we have Savvas, which is who's going to start, and then we have Great Minds, otherwise known as Eureka Math, and then finally we have Big Ideas Learn. Okay, each vendor has a 45-minute time slot. If they don't take up the whole time, there'll be some time for some questions. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to Andy Hogan right now.
Thank you, Ms. Mott. Good afternoon, good evening. I don't even know with the sun being down, if it's midnight, it could be whatever. Thank you all for making the time out. I know I was just joking with the 5th grade team, but it is December, it is hard, the days are long, the stretch till winter break feels like an eternity from now. So I'm so appreciative of you all being here after a long week. I know we're thinking about to-do lists and all the things that we got to do, so it really means the world to us that you're here. My name is Andy Hogan, and really what my role with Savvas Learning is just the conduit between Riverview Gardens and to Savvas Learning for high-quality instructional materials. I've had the privilege of working shoulder to shoulder with Ms. Mott, with Ms. Ross, with really all of the curriculum instruction teams, the reviews and implementations, and here to be a good partner to you in education. So we are unique tonight in the aspect that we have 2 different resources to share with you. And so the first one that our wonderful specialist, Ms. Michelle Dykstra, is going to take us through is Experience Math. Experience Math is all new from our authorship team of Dr. Marion Small and Graham Fletcher. Really what it is founded in is inquiry and student-centered approach to mathematics. So if you had a moment as you walked in, and I can grab one if you didn't, we have student samplers, we have teacher's guides that are tabbed for you to peek at. I know Michelle will speak a little bit more to the math that's in front of you as well. It's got just an overview of the resource. But one thing I want to turn your attention to, just as an artifact, because I have a feeling by the end of the evening it's going to feel like analysis paralysis, and you're going to be like, what did I just listen to, and who said what, and what's going on? So something that I built just for the Ramley is a folder that is specific to 2 different resources that we're sharing tonight. So again, the first one that's very inquiry heavy is Experience Math, and that's on the left side of your folder. And at the bottom of it, you'll see a sticker there that has got a custom website that I built just for you of all overview information, including our correlations to the Missouri Learning Standards, a nod from the authorship team. Lots of overview information is here for you. When Michelle wraps up, we're going to switch over to our other curriculum specialist, Ms. Siobhan Johnson, and we're going to speak about EnVision mathematics, which is on the other side. And I've already told Siobhan that I'll try to keep my lips sealed because I taught with EnVision math, and it is like my favorite thing in the world. So, but I have to keep myself calm or I'll geek out, and then we'll never get started. So again, on that side, I have a separate custom website that I built for you as well. So again, as you're unpacking, as you're thinking through, know that you have these 2 spaces to lean on. I think above all else, though, I live in St. Louis. I absolutely love supporting Riverview Gardens. I'm here for you. I cannot wait to be able to sit next to teachers, next to coaches, to be able to make EnVision or Experience Math work in your classroom. But I'm like the kid that needs popsicle sticks of how many times I'm able to talk. So I'm going to zip it. I'm going to hand it over to Michelle. But again, thank you all for your time here. We're so proud to be here and to be a part of the work that you do. So thank you.
All right, good evening. Well, welcome to Experience Math. This is our new inquiry-based program available in Spanish and English. It was intentionally designed to spark that learning through experience. You're going to see tabs. So if you have one of those TEGs, they're spiral, there's going to be some tabs. If you don't, you can look at them a little bit later after you leave here today. But my name is Michelle Dykstra. I am a curriculum specialist for Savvas Learning Company. There is a placemat that Andy already talked about a little bit, but I would encourage you to take this placemat with you when you leave here today. Open up those QR codes, review what we talked about today. Maybe you'll learn a few new things as well. On the back of it, you want to take a look too, on the back of it is going to be a lesson. Hopefully we'll get to play around a little bit with the lesson tonight, and so you can explore and see what it's like as a student. I want to introduce you to our authors. Our lead author is Dr. Marianne Small. She is a very well-published author. She's published over 100 resources, which is pretty amazing. She's a professional development expert who has been in the education field for over 50 years. Our contributing author, which you may recognize, is Graham Fletcher, and he is very, very passionate about using engaging tasks with students. So he'll be working with React Math Task or the Wonder Task because he's all about developing that deep conceptual understanding with students. Now, Experience Math is built around a 3-part lesson structure. Okay, it's to elicit curiosity, motivate the students to be engaged mathematically. The first part is Minds On. That's the first part where we're activating prior knowledge, we're eliciting that curiosity. Second part is the action task. Here, we're going to go deeper and we're going to focus on the learning goal of the lesson. That third part is Consolidate. This is where you're bringing everybody together, they're refining their thinking, they're internalizing that new knowledge, making sure that they understand the math and there is no misconceptions. Move on to your turn. This is the practice question. So now students can show you what they know. So what I want to do is we're going to jump in to an experienced lesson. You're going to look at it through the eyes of a student. So if you would join me up on the screen here, how many of you are familiar with this animal or ever come face to face or nose to nose with this animal? Raise your hand if you have. Okay, so this is a baby dolphin. Anybody want to shout out how many pounds they think this baby dolphin weighs? Give it a shout.
180.
180. Thank you. Any others? I know you're all shy.
400.
400. Thank you. Well, this baby dolphin weighs 48 pounds.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I know. 48 pounds. So what I want you to do now with your partner, or if you don't have one, you can join in with another person, is I want you to use this information now to make a multiplication problem about the dolphin. And then we'll have maybe one or two of you share out. So if you wouldn't mind talking at your tables, come up with a multiplication problem.
I'm not saying you have to solve it.
Yeah, you do not have to solve it, just create a problem. Would you be? You don't have to, you don't want to. All right, we're gonna have one at the back table. She was voluntold to share out, so it's fine sharing out.
We noticed that there were 2 baby dolphins, so we said 48 times 2. And then we're thinking the mom had to carry 2 babies, so how much weight did she have?
Ooh, that's a good one.
I like that. Good job. Thank you so much for sharing. So every lesson starts out with a Minds On lesson like this. So we're activating their prior knowledge, kind of sparking their curiosity. I'm going to have you listen to 2 4th graders share their story problems. First one is Ava.
A baby dolphin weighs 48 pounds. Assuming a whale is 4 times the weight of a dolphin, how much would an average baby whale weigh?
So Ava used proportional reasoning to imagine the weight of a whale. Here's Sophia.
A baby dolphin weighs 48 pounds. If he swings over to another baby dolphin, how much do they both weigh?
So again, moving in pods, figuring out the weight. Now, we started out with that Minds On. That's the first part, just activating their prior knowledge. Then we're gonna move into the action task, which is part 2, focuses on that learning goal. Sometimes the lesson will start with an engaging real-world video. So we'll take a listen to one here.
The students in Aiden's class read 124 books in 1 month. The class goal is to read a total of 3 times that many books by the end of 3 months. How many more books will they have to read over the next 2 months? Explain your thinking.
Now I want you to turn your placement over, and we're gonna look at the action task. If you wanna move and work with the group, we're gonna do a little bit of a map here. So in this action task, students are gonna be developing, using, and sharing strategies either with a partner or a small group. So you can see on question number 1 and number 2 here, we are asking them how many more books will they have to read over the next 2 months, and then explain how you know this problem is a multiplication situation. And you're gonna see the math practices pop up all over an Experience Math. And they're marked here in red, so you know that that's a math practice. Now after they've answered these 2 questions, then it goes even deeper. And you're gonna see the Experience Math difference here. So they're gonna have choice, they're gonna be engaged, and they're gonna develop deep conceptual understanding. This is where you're gonna come in and participate now. So instead of choosing 3 pair of numbers, I want you to choose 1 pair of numbers, whatever you feel comfortable with. Whether you choose 4 and 152, 10 and 30, 36 or 19, you have the choice of what numbers you want to choose. Then I want you to create and solve a problem that includes multiplication. You don't have to do the next step. So you're gonna create a story problem and then be able to share that strategy with me. And maybe we'll have 1 or 2 to share out. Everybody clear? So you're gonna pick 1 pair of numbers, your choice, whatever you feel comfortable with, create a story problem with multiplication, and then be able to share your strategy. All right, you can get to work at your tables. You can think like a kid. What would they do? Nope.
Very true, by which numbers they choose. Yeah, very
You know, it helps you understand numbers, but then also it helps you understand, as Michelle gets into,
Yeah.
as which are more targeted instructions. but I think this is really.
Okay.
Guess we beat you. I don't even want to know.
Oh,
Today is my last. Don't say that in front of people. Don't say that. I'm calling you tomorrow.
No, I already shared.
What's your Oh, yeah. The principal said no. You had budget cuts.
All right, we'll stop here, and I know some of you are still working on it, but you'll get an idea with this kind of problem. It's very low floor, high ceiling. So we had a conversation at this table. Students can go ahead and probably pick 10 and 30. That might be easier for them to access this problem. Others may pick 36 and 19 to jump in and then share their strategy. So that's what's nice with this. They get to choose their numbers. They create their own story problem, which then gives them that student autonomy, which we know is so important for students. Then it goes even deeper. We're asking them to estimate, to check their answer, explain why multiplication can be used to solve the problem, and then create a different problem for the same pair of numbers. So again, you look, we are asking them to create, to describe, estimate, and explain. So those DOK levels are really off the chart for this. Now, let's listen in to Ricky as he solved this problem. He decided to take 25 times 80. He broke up 80 into 8 tens and took 25 times 80.
Okay, so today I'm gonna make 25 using 2 10s and 5 1s. Now I'm gonna clone it until there's 8. Now I'm gonna write the problem into an equation. 8 times 25, which means 8 groups of 25. Now that's equal to 200. And 200 times 10 is equal to 2,000.
So what you may not notice is that Ricky was using Braining-Camp digital manipulatives. Okay, and Braining-Camp takes these digital manipulatives to really a whole nother level. You can have access to all of these manipulatives you see here. There's a number line you can use with number notation to see and represent numbers. There are circles with fractions that you can move the slider to change the size of the fractions. And then there's algebraic tiles that you can use to create algebraic expressions. You also have the ability to go live with your students. So you will be able to see all of your students working here right in real time. What's a nice feature too is you can lock their screens. You know how they always listen, right? And so you can lock their screens if they're not paying attention and give them some directions. You can lock one single screen. You can give a message to the whole entire class or a message for one student. You also have the ability to export all of these strategies and have them saved as a PDF. Braining-Camp has also created 300 tasks that are hooked to our lessons that you can use live with your students. So a lot of possibilities with Braining-Camp. Now, as soon as you're done using hands-on or your digital manipulatives, using them in the minds-on and the action task, it will go a little bit further in the lesson. Some of the lessons will give you ideas on how to engage your students in knowledge mobility. Here you're going to see students are participating in a gallery walk, where they're walking around, looking at other strategies, comparing their strategy to what they used. There may be a stay and stray, where one student stays at that poster and has to explain it to another group that's coming by. So gallery walk is a great way to continue building community in your classroom and for knowledge generation. So let's quickly just recap again. Step 1, minds on. All we're doing is activating prior knowledge. It takes about 10 minutes, okay? Then we're moving on to the action task, where they're digging in, focus on that learning goal. They are developing, using, and sharing strategies to solve a problem, either with a partner or a small group. Then we move on to consolidate. Again, this is where you're bringing everything together, refining their thinking. Marianne says this is the part of the lesson you cannot skip, because they're internalizing new knowledge here. You're making sure they have no misconceptions. She's providing you with these rich questions that are scaffolded to take you to that learning goal. You don't have to come up with these questions. She has those already there for you to bring out that important math, saving you a lot of time. Practice. Practice is next. Well, what does that look like? With experienced math, it is intentionally different. You're going to see there's a learning goal and there's a journal prompt. So they have a journal prompt for every single lesson based on that learning goal. There are your turn practice questions. Some of them are going to be open-ended, which may be a little bit different if you're not used to these open-ended questions. So two students could answer a question, both have two different answers, and they both can be correct. Again, they're generalizing ideas and attaching meaning and context. You want to do online. You have the choice of online. There's a variety of questions with online. Here you can see a drag and drop for your students. There's going to be multiple choice. They're going to get feedback that's going to tell them if they're correct or they're incorrect and get a little hint. Now for grades 6 through 8, they have view in an example where it will step them through that problem. They will at the end get information on how they did. You as a teacher will get great data as well. You can see and look by student question. You can look by standard. You can look by performance as well. Games. We all know kids love games. So there are digital games. Now these two students are working on the same game, but they have a different experience because they're different numbers. We also have print games, and there are literally over 100 print games, K through 8. And we have print because we value the conversations that students can have with their partner. We aren't going to have time to play a game today, but I want to show you an area model match game that would go with this lesson. So students would be given an equation like this, 48 times 53, and they would have area model cards at their desks. And then I would put this on the board, and I would ask them, as soon as they found a match, hold it up, yell, got it. Then they would check with their partner, see if they agree. And there could be 0 matches, 1 match, 2 matches. So they would have that conversation. And then we would go ahead and show the area model match on here and see if they had those answers. And you could do it this way, but I'm also going to show you there are directions that go with each of the games. Some of them down like here in the left corner, it tells you there's other ways to play that game. So I could play concentration with a partner. Flip them all over and play concentration. Myself, I could just flip them all over and do a matching game. Or I could challenge some of the kids and give them empty area cards and they have to make their own. So there's a wide variety of ways you can play the games. They're great for fluency and for practice. You can use these over and over throughout the year. Now, we know when kids come home at the end of the day, and you might ask your kids, well, how did it go today? What did you learn? And sometimes you get, oh, I don't know, nothing, especially middle school kids. That's how my boys were. We don't want that. We want them to come home excited at the end of the day, excited about what they learned in class, excited about the games that they played. And parents and guardians can help with that by going to our family engagement website. It is a great homeschool connection. You're going to see here, it will connect you right to the topic. It will open up that topic. You're going to see the learning goals. There's a connect the math activity you could do with your kids. Games and puzzles. What we played in the classroom, they can print and play at home. They can click on the lesson. It takes them to this Sum It Up page, which explains the strategies and models they used in the classroom. And then there are the vocabulary that's used for that lesson. You can translate it using Google Translate. Over 60+ languages. You can print and save it as a PDF. So the Family Engagement website is a great homeschool connection. It saves you a lot of time from creating all this if some parent really wants to know and help at home. And I think the best thing of all, they don't need a username or password. You can take that link and you can paste it in your school website. You can send it in an email, whatever you want to do, school newsletter. You can send that out by book, by topic, or by lesson. Okay, saves a lot of time. Now, I hope this doesn't look like you when you're planning, trying to go through maybe your old binders or your Google Drive folders, trying to find the resources that you need. We have those resources. At the topic level, it's going to give you idea for pacing. It's going to tell you what we have going forward, going backward. So here's your lesson, what came before, what came after. There's an observational assessment checklist, Marianne's insight videos, a diagnostic task. Now Marianne's insight videos, she's like your personal instructional planner by your side. She's got a 2 to 3 minute video for every topic, giving you her insights in almost every single lesson.
What I really want students to see, though, is that for any multiplication that I might write, there are tons of problems that different students could create or that you could create. So I want students to see that multiplication has different meanings, and that might come out in different problems they create, or they might change the context and have a similar meaning. But students need to see that the mathematics is kind of a shorthand for a plethora of problems.
So that's a short video, one of her videos from one of the topics. So also we have the structure. We've broken down the lesson into those parts that you saw. She's going to provide you with the resources that you need to teach that lesson. She's going to have the questions, the sentence stems that you need. Example, mine's on. She gives you ideas for grouping, materials that you need. In this activity, what are the students going to be doing? She's got, and the point is, what is that focus of the lesson so you stay on that focus? You move into the action task. She's got parallel tasks to help you differentiate for your students right at your fingertips, right at the spot where you need them. She gives you ideas to help those kids that are struggling and those that need maybe more of a challenge. She's got support for multilingual learners with significant, moderate, and light scaffolding. What could you do if? That's probably my favorite part. She's been in so many classrooms. She sees where kids get caught up. She'll say, okay, if you see this, this is what you can do. So we'll listen to Marianne quickly talk about parallel tasks and how she uses that to different.
Parallel tasks tend to work because we are focused on the essential understandings, not on the specifics of can you do it with this size number versus this size number. So because we're focused on essential understandings, we can often simplify the details of a problem so that students can access that essential understanding in a simpler way.
So that's how she differentiates. She doesn't give kids a separate different task, put them in the corner to work on something else. They're still working on the same task, they just may have different numbers. Easier access for them. Consolidate, same thing. She gives you ideas to group again, the materials that you need in this discussion. And the point is, I love how she talks about all the consolidate questions and why she's asking the questions she is. Now, you're done planning, you're done prepping, you're ready to present. You can go ahead and print the present mode in the top right corner. Kids are going to be able to see what they need to see. You're going to be able to see this teacher assistance panel with all of those notes without it affecting what the students see on the screen. So it really was created for on the go, but if you like to have paper in your hand, there are teacher experience guides that will be ready for back to school in the fall. And just to give you an idea of what they look like, you're going to see the first slide, mine's on, and everything that's in that teacher assistance panel is going to show up here in that teacher experience guide. So when you're ready to plan, you can use Savvas Realize platform and that teacher guidance. Now let's listen in here a little bit to Graham Fletcher as he talks about early numeracy. Because are the kids ready? Do they have the resources they need?
Well, before students come to us in kindergarten, they begin to see what numbers look like. I mean, literally. Check out these dice. Students know that there's 4, 2, 3, and 5, but they don't know that quantity. They're just simply calling out number names and matching them to what the things look like.
So, unfortunately, we know that many students come to school without the background knowledge they need. And they come to school on day one already behind through no fault of their own. So Experience Math helps with that starting on day one. In kindergarten, you you are going to see there's explorations in every single topic, helping to build that background knowledge. So for example, here you're going to see a plant. It might ask how many flowers are there. You're inviting a family over for dinner. What else might you need? You're designing a jacket or a sweater. How many buttons would you need? Or you're designing a creature. How many eyes? How many arms? So we know students don't learn in isolation or through rote memorization, but they learn through experiences like this. It just sticks for them. Now, in kindergarten, they are going to be exposed to some storybooks, and these storybooks are going to help give them those experiences to build that background knowledge, so they all have a seat at the table. During kindergarten, they're going to be working on flexibility skills, their estimation skills, all at the same time building their fluency. And it could be through open-ended questions, through different structures and routines, like number talks or games and puzzles. Now, Graham, I'm going to have you listen to him for like 30 seconds, and he's going to talk a little bit about fluency.
Who know their facts on Friday, and we're super jazzed, and we go home and we have the best weekend ever, and we come back and we're ready to build on that fact fluency, and kids have completely forgot their facts, right? We go right back to square one. We're lost, we're frustrated. Something isn't sticking. What's the first word that comes to mind when you hear this word fluency?
What's the first word you guys hear when you hear fluency, when you think of it? You can just shout it out. What do you think of when you think of fluency? Flow. 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 Flexible. Flexible. Automatic. Thank you for sharing those. Well, let's hear what he has to say a little more.
The part that was missing for me for so long is that students don't only know their facts, but they know how or where and when to use them.
I love that. Know how, when, and where to use them. That is so important. We've talked about kindergarten and how we build the fluency there, but it really builds all the way K through 8. And you're going to see on the screen, these are some activities that we can do to continue building that fluency. There's mini games throughout the program. You're going to see a number talk on decomposing 96. So there's games on decimals here. There's brain benders. I love these. Which is taller, a stack of dimes worth 10 or a stack of quarters worth 15? Gets them to think. And one more brain bender I'll quick show you. Love this one too. How much time do you think you will spend on your phone in the next 20 years? So it's really engaging and it gets them thinking. So again, we're building efficiency and accuracy through these experiences, and that's what makes experience math truly different. Now, of course, we need to be checking for accuracy, so we got to have a conversation of assessment. There are 3 types that assessment for, as, and of learning. We're going to listen to Marianne talk about assessment for learning.
One of the parts of assessment that has been identified as extremely important is usually termed assessment for learning. It's the process of teachers gathering information as they're teaching, perhaps prior to teaching, about their students because they want that information to inform next steps. So you will see in every topic there will be a diagnostic task, which is not lengthy, but which deals with important prerequisites. So a teacher could say, yes, these kids are or are not ready for what I'm about to embark on, and make instructional decisions about what to do next. We provide for every topic an observational assessment checklist. These are things that teachers would be watching for as students are working. So what things should I focus on as I'm watching students, because perhaps these things will have more impact on how I proceed with instruction than other things. We encourage lots of conversation with kids, and we provide many, many questions that teachers would ask kids. And those answers could be used by teachers in terms of assessment for learning.
So you're going to see Marianne is all about quantitative but also qualitative. And so she's constantly assessing as she's walking around and listening. And what you saw in there was we have Scout, which is an observational assessment tool that you can go around and snap pictures and videos, and it will load right up into Savvas Realize. Now, assessment as learning is going to be your self-assessment. Just to give you an idea here, it could be just simply asking a question. to your students and asking, what did you like about this strategy? What didn't you like about this strategy? We also have, let's see if I can move here and then move on quickly. We have journal prompts, again, based on that learning goal, helping kids self-assess. They also can share their work with somebody else across the table from them. Ask them questions, get formative feedback. Assessment of learning, you're probably all familiar with. It's your assessments at the end of a topic or a chapter. We have these types of assessments, observations, conversations, and products. And then, of course, our assessments, we have them on skills and on concepts because they're two different things. There are performance tasks with rubrics to go along with it. And then we have making connections tasks that cover more than 2 strands. Assessment of learning overview, which is another one of my favorite. It tells you exactly what skill questions and concept questions from that topic assessment goes with the lesson. We have topic assessments, and then the topic assessments are online, along with some performance and parallel assessments. I'm going to skip over this for right now because I'm going to have Siobhan talk about our success maker, because I'm looking at my time. So, coming to the end here. So we know you guys have a big decision to make. It is. It's a really big decision to pick a curriculum that's going to meet the needs of your teachers and your students. So regardless of their background or their experiences, you need to pick a program that works for your students. I encourage you to take this placement home again, look it over, open up those QR codes, because there's a lot. There's a lot to process in this short amount of time. Go ahead, review what we've talked about today. You'll probably learn a few new things as well. I just want to say thank you for participating. Thank you for engaging and listening. I know it was really fast and really short, but I tried to get everything in. We would love to partner with you and bring this experience, this love of learning back to your students. So thank you again for participating and paying attention. Thank you.
All right, team, we are going to make a quick transition over into EnVision Math. I'd encourage you just to take your Experience Math placemat, if you wanted to fold it and put it in the left side of your folder. That way you've got all of your artifacts in one spot. Ann and I are going to come around with ones for EnVision Math. And EnVision Math is really our traditional visual learning, problem-based learning resource. Tried and true. I know Siobhan's going to speak a lot about a big award that we just got, and especially a lot about our Missouri partners as well. We're going to come by with these placemats for you, and I think the biggest call out that I want you to take a look at is the core versus more page on the back side. And this really gives you a look, thinking of tenured teachers, budding teachers, and brand new teachers coming into a classroom and understanding how do I get the flow of a lesson down. The front side, we've got a lot of information. I really want you paying attention to the core versus more on the back, and that's true also for grades 6 through 8, as well as our high school suite. Right now, too, if anybody wants to open up their popcorn or trade flavors, my personal favorites are red pepper flakes. So I'm going to go looking for one.
Top 50s have my name on it.
Absolutely.
Excuse me, everyone. I just want you to know, as you can see, there's pizza and snacks. Just at your leisure, get it, come on back. We're going to work while we eat, okay?
You already got your, okay.
Please eat the pizza and the snacks.
I just want to Hey, Ms. Curtis.
Look, I was doing all this.
Tonight is your math.
We know there was at least one more here, right? Is it 2?
Yeah.
Just right here.
And as y'all get snacks and get kind of settled in for the next piece, I would say the number one item to probably have in front of you from those blue plastic bags would be your teacher's edition for EnVision Math. And that's the easy one to pull out. It's the one that I have the Made from Missouri sticker on there. Siobhan will speak more about all of our Missouri learning standards being embedded on our platform. But also you'll be able to see these colored tabs on the side just to guide you through pages. So Teacher's Edition, I think above all, will be the most important. And if you're interested in looking at student work texts, we've got both the color version of the Student Interactive, and then also if you're seeking additional practice, there is an additional practice lesson Siobhan will speak to. That's another book there as well. So out for you. And grades K2 are special. They get theirs in landscape format for bigger space, for little hands and big things. All right. Miss Siobhan, I'll pass it to you for EnVision. Thank you, President.
Thank you. Good afternoon, evening, everyone. Everybody, let's just say, woosah. So, turn around. Another math presentation. Here we go. It will go quick. But I'll definitely try to leave a little bit of a window so you can get some questions asked. So Andy's right, you do have a few things in your bags, and these are sample bags. Just know that EnVision is a Volume 1, Volume 2 program. So in your sample bags, you're likely only seeing Volume 1 of that Teacher's Edition. You're only seeing Volume 1 of that Student Edition. Now at high school, it's a bit different because that's when they have the hardback textbook. So at high school, there's only one student textbook for the entire course. So there's one Algebra 1 book. But for the teacher resources, it's still going to be a Volume 1, Volume 2 resource. So in looking at that, EnVision is now a kindergarten through Algebra 2 program. So I've been a specialist since 2007 when EnVision first came on the scene, and it was only a kindergarten through 6th grade resource. But what we're looking at now is a collaborative, consistent authorship team. So when we're looking at that coherence factor or the vertical alignment of EnVision, we're seeing that growth to college and career readiness, which is what we're striving for, beginning at kindergarten all the way through Algebra 2. And your resources actually support that. So when we look at preparation for a topic, when we look at a lesson, it gives you the coherence factor. So we know what students should have been exposed to prior to this lesson, and then where they're going to go next with these standards. Now, everything is available on your Savvas Real Life platform. So inside of those folders that Andy gave you all, you will have a username and password where you really can see all grade levels of EnVision. So in your bag, you may just have a grade level specific bag, but if you'd like to see the grade level below or the grade level above, you will have the ability to do so. But the greatest thing about that is we can't guarantee that our students have internet access at home. So that interactive student edition where they may have a picture in the textbook, but it's actually a video model in the online student edition, they still have access to that online. So if they have a device here in school where they're connecting to the internet, they can download a lesson, download a topic. How much they download, of course, is going to depend on space size, but the same interactivity they have online with that interactive student edition, they have it offline as well. So if they are at home, they download that lesson, they still have all of the activity in an offline environment if they were here in a library where they were connecting to Wi-Fi. You can't have a program that's not proven. So one of the things that we look at for proven, it's made for Missouri. So it is going to correlate to your Missouri learning standards. When you look at Savvas Realize, when you search for things by standards, or you're looking at your data and you're looking at a standards analysis, it's actually your Missouri learning standards. Now I'm from Michigan, we're using Common Core. But if I'm here and I'm cool, I'm good. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. So if we're looking at things online, you're not seeing Common Core like I am if I'm at home in Detroit. You're looking at your things, it's actually your Missouri learning standards that you can search for those resources, but most importantly, when you're looking at your data and your standards analysis will be targeted to your Missouri Learning Standards. And most importantly, improvement program, we look at it's all green on ED reports, not just K-5, 6, 8, but kindergarten through AGA. I'll snap with you again. Okay, so, and the biggest thing at the beginning of the year is we want to give our students access. So it will totally actually integrate with what you're already using in the district. So if you're using Clever and you're used to clicking on one button and it opens your account, it's going to do the same thing for teachers and students. You're not typing in usernames and passwords because if you're using Google Classroom, that classroom is already set up. You're just importing it into that space. So every time I click assign on Realize, it shows as an assignment for them in Google Classroom. They click on it and it opens it to their assignment space. So students will not have to enter a username and password. So now let's look at the program. But before we jump right into the program at the beginning of the school year, as teachers, we always want to know what are they coming to us with after the summer vacation. So there is a screener and diagnostic tool that shows us exactly where our students are performing that is available for the program. It also is great because for you as teachers, it's in that same platform, and it will also give you instructional recommendations based on how they perform on what we should be targeting for them or what we really may want to isolate with them when it comes to their EnVision instruction. So EnVision is organized by topics of instruction. Now it's great when we're moving from concept to concept, but I don't want to have to wait until I get to the first lesson or the middle of the chapter topic to know where my students may have strengths and weaknesses. So there is a prerequisite assessment that is available for every grade level. So I can see in advance, basically if I'm building a new house of math strength, how shaky is the foundation? Where may they have those gaps and weaknesses that are going to expose themselves once we actually begin to teach our lessons? And as you see here in this space, this is available digitally beginning at the 6th grade level. Now for my kindergarten or 5th grade teachers, if you're at the beginning of a topic, and I see one of my cousins, you all are my cousins now, okay? What's your name? AC. AC. My cousin AC is right on this page. What happens in the K-8 environment, they just place a tool that you have right in the student edition. So if you go to lunch and so does the internet, I don't have to worry about getting online. I don't have to worry about if I have toner, because it's April. This happened to me. I taught in Detroit, okay? So what happens is you'll always have a tool to check their prerequisite strength. So basically for me to inform myself as a teacher where we may have some lag and drag when it comes to teaching the new concept that's going to be developed in my classroom for the next 2+ weeks of instruction. Cool beans? All right. So what does that instruction look like? Now, in your teacher's edition, you should have a green tab. So the green tab should take you to a lesson so we can look at your lesson design. So if you're my kindergarten through 8th grade teachers, and you'll see this at the top of the page, but also a great place to look at it, Andy has made these fantabulous mats for you that I'm going to fold up and put in my bag and take it right on the plane with me tomorrow. You can look at those steps in sequence. And some of you are looking at a two-sider where you're seeing the steps, but most importantly, take a look at where it says core board, okay? Because I don't want it to seem too overwhelming, but let's look at what I call what's the true fidelity of the program, and then what are some of those extras that we'll pull from as we're being responsive to our students and how they are responding to the instruction that's going on in the classroom. So K-8, you have a 3-step lesson plan design. You turn to that tab, you should notice at the top of your pages, they label those steps. I'm used to the 5 E's of instruction, okay? Raise your hand if we're familiar with the 5 E's of instruction. It's still labeled like that in your teacher's edition. So if we're still doing those 5 E's, engage, explore, you'll see that. Now, my high school teachers, you just have an extra step. It's still the exact same instructional design. The only difference is they isolate practice and problem solving as its own step. For us as K-8 teachers, that's gonna be in step number 2 for us. Thumbs up if we're cool? All right, so let's look at what's happening with step 1. It's problem-based learning. It's the exploration stage of the lesson. So what you are looking at, we should see a rich math task that we want our students to engage in, but most importantly, we want them to be in small groups, buddies, pairs, as they're doing this quick inquiry dig, this exploration time, okay? Now, this is what they may see in their student edition, but what happens with this problem-based learning, please, remember, everything is digital. So if I have a TV like this in the classroom, I can give them an exact representation of what they are seeing in their student edition live time. I have access to manipulatives right there at point of use because it is going to encourage the use of manipulatives with your daily lessons. And so in this space, I've learned that just because I now teach EnVision doesn't mean I'm going to throw out everything that I know work well with my students. And everyone doesn't want to be live and online teaching a lesson. You do have a PowerPoint presentation available for each and every lesson. So if you want to add a little piece of your own instruction to the EnVision instruction, you're able to do so. I would jot that down in my teacher's edition or just jot that down as a quick note. Andy.
Can I throw in a popsicle stick? Can I toss it down?
Yes.
If you're not a PowerPoint person, don't worry, because Google Slides are live. Everything within the platform that we have editable, you can do in Google Docs or Google Slides. So every lesson comes with those as well. You make it your own, you put your own flair into it, you put a timer into it. It saves as your own. You share it with the team however you want. But if you're not a PowerPoint person, if you are, you got it. If you're not, you got it.
That was good. So I'll throw you your popsicle stick back.
Perfect.
Okay. So, and my colleague mentioned the braiding cap manipulatives. So, what's your name, sir? Robert. So, Robert, if we're working on snap cues, I'm going to lock your machine if you're over there playing with money. Okay? So it gives us the opportunity to be interactive. If it's me, I want to play with money. I don't want to play with those snap cues Ms. Johnson got out. But it happens. They could be doing a little bit of anything, but it gives us a chance to see exactly what's going on in their device, live time, lock it down, send messages. But what if I have those students that we're working with place value and they need help with their visual problems? I'm able to provide them that assistance right on the spot. So braiding camp, I know we mentioned it with Experience Math, but you do have that as part of the platform for kindergarten through 8th grade teachers with EnVision as well. And so let's look at what's happening in your teacher's edition with your teaching support. You're constantly going to see a stamp that says ETP. It's just a stamp by NCTM that says this is an effective teaching practice for launching instruction. Realistically, when I look at the research behind EnVision Math, back to 2007, even before that, when it was Scott Forsman, Addison Wesley, this step of the lesson is what research base has told us increases retention. Because we have to give students a surface level, an exploration level where they're talking about the concept before we just throw new mathematics instruction at them. So in a sense, we're giving them an anchor point or an anchor space to latch that new instruction to so they can make some sense and connection of that. But sometimes they struggle. So sometimes we may just want to have an analysis day. Let's post 2 examples of student work and how students may respond to that. And let's have a discussion, okay? And also, if you're looking at the top of your page, you may see a little telescope symbol from our kindergarten through 8th grade teachers. So I know my colleagues mentioned what we call Realize Scout. That is an EnVision exclusive tool. I call it my ear hustle, eye hustle time. Because if I'm walking around the classroom, if I'm looking on your paper to see if I'm looking at common errors, if I'm ear hustling on your conversations and I'm listening to misconceptions that you may have, I am able to document them old school pencil and paper. But if I have a device, iPhone, Chromebook, I'm able to sit it down and record our conversations. I can take pictures of your work. I can record videos. So in a sense, it gives you a digital portfolio tool that you won't find with any other program. Okay? So from that stage, giving them exploration time, quick little inquiry dig, now we're going to move on to the new learning stage of the lesson, which is going to be step 2, okay? Step 2 and step 3 for high school, but I'll break it down and explain it. So what's happening with visual learning? With visual learning, you should see a model, a visually explicit model that walks them through the new mathematical understanding for today's lesson. If there's any new vocabulary words that are connected to the lesson, it's going to be in that visual model. In your teacher's edition, we should see classroom support for fostering that discourse and discussion. But also what happens with middle grades, that first example, and for K-5 for each and every lesson, what you're going to see is what we call a visual learning animation.
Let's use a bar diagram and an equation to represent the situation. Both bars represent the total amount spent.
So what we're seeing is exactly what you see in that visual model in the textbook. It's been turned into an animated video. The great thing about them, they're no longer sitting gets. I would say from about 2007 to 2012, the kids just push play or the teachers push play, and they're with the video. Now, if you notice in the timeline, I think the video paused itself. It's still going to stop strategically for us to have those mathematical conversations. It may have the student come up and click or drag a correct answer to proceed the model. So the way I always think of it, every lesson has an interactive concept video. I would jot that down. So where you're seeing that green box at the top of the student pages, all of that's animated, where it's going to stop. It's going to question them. It's going to have them thinking. For my middle grade teachers, high school teachers, it's typically going to be the first example that they're going to animate. Great resource to use with students who may miss a day because we're moving into that cold and flu season as well. So that's one of the greatest resources that I see teachers around the country they are using because their students simply may be absent from class, or if we're wrapping up class, it's a good way of doing a quick recap, a quick review of what's taking place. Now, immediately following those models, and before I get to that, Desmos. For my middle grades and high school teachers, you also have access to Desmos tools. It's automatically embedded in your teacher resources, automatically embedded in their student edition. So if they see this graph as a picture in the textbook, Desmos tools are automatically set up for them to interact with that particular image that they have. Now, those are going to be used in the examples to walk them through the instruction. Yes, ma'am.
So a couple questions. The alignment to the state standards, are they identified in the lesson?
They're going to be identified in your correlation, guys. Andy, do you want to speak to that?
They are identified at the lesson level, yes ma'am.
Yes.
So when
they're
you are in the
identified.
platform, every single lesson that you pull up to, if you're using an Animation Plus video, if you're using a reteaching opportunity, if you're using enrichment, every single standard is coded right there at point of use in the platform. If you wanted to look at it in print, we do have print correlations that will tell you, hey, I really need to target, number and learning sense 4.3. It will tell you in your teacher's edition exactly what page that's found in, and then what instructional resources are there for you. I think digital is fast to find it, but if you're looking in your book, you've got it there as well.
And in how they're interacting with it, in terms of you were saying that the students can come up and click and drag. Is that in alignment with how they're using tools when they do the map of the state?
When they're doing assessments, what we're calling those next generation assessments, where everything is not just multiple choice, true or false. They may have to do a drag and drop. They may have multiple.
So
they may be
teaching
considered
them
blank.
how to take a test once they see
Exactly.
state level. Okay.
You're ahead of me. What's your name?
Okay. Tanya Patton.
Ms. Patton, I'm not mad at you, because what's happening is they're getting it at the lesson level, but really what happens when I want to say assessment, every lesson is going to end with assessment practice as part of their independent practice and problem solving. But while we're fostering that instruction, it gives teachers the opportunity to model what they're going to experience in those digital spaces or even in the written kind of format, because to me, I still think we need to get our kids, get them back more pencil to paper, but we're able to model and demonstrate that throughout the lesson, doing those formative assessment checks as we go on. So when we are releasing them for that gradual release of independent practice, they have a section that's titled assessment practice, where now they have to show me what they know.
And that's both done in writing and electronic?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And I'll say too, we don't have to wait for kiddos to get to the end of topic or end of chapter assessment. Those digital like tech literacy things that we're teaching, drag and drop, multiple select versus multiple choice, those are at the lesson level. Those are in the digital practice. So we don't have to wait until we get to a chapter to see those. We can be practicing those skills and talking about it every single day.
Okay, you have my attention now.
Oh, yes, real good. Okay, now, what's happening as we're taking them through the visual models, part of those quick checks that we're talking about, those ongoing assessments, after each visual model, either in elementary, the kids are saying what's called convince me or show me. In middle school and high school, they're seeing these try it questions, which are those rich questions that we want to expose them to, just to check their level of learning as we're pacing and going through the lesson, the new mathematical understanding that's taking place in this place. But most importantly, how do we support teachers at point of use? You take a look at that fancy wraparound support that we're seeing at the lesson level, you'll see these RTI symbols. So what are we doing with the students who may be struggling with the lesson? How do I extend some things for students that may need to push ahead? But even beyond that, what am I doing with my English language learners? And I look at all of us as English language learners, especially in the self-contained classrooms, K-8, and even in the high school space. But you have an additional exclusive tool. I would jot this down because you may not see this in your bag, okay? K-8, every teacher will have a handbook that's called the Language Support Handbook. It gives us an additional language strategy that we can do with our students for each and every EnVision lesson. So to me, that is going to really increase that comprehension. The more we can play around with academic vocabulary, mathematical vocabulary, vocabulary predicts comprehension. So the more opportunities that we have to have those discussions, the better we are for them. So kindergarten through 8th grade, we do have the language development handbook, and that's an additional language activity outside of what you're already seeing in the wraparound support at the lesson level that we can do with our students inside of an EnVision classroom. Now when it comes to that practice, let's take a look at that practice. They're always going to have 2 pages of practice, okay? It's right in the student edition. But if you notice here on my screen, they also have that digital practice. And notice, this is one of the examples Ms. Patton was talking about. They have to fill in detail, in multi-steps, how they're solving this particular equation. They click submit, and it's incorrect. It's not just going to tell them it's wrong. It's going to talk about the mathematics or what may be wrong with their response. But they also have additional assistive tools that are going to help them work through that math task. And what's your name? Ms. Green. Okay. Robert is going to assign me and Ms. Green this assignment, but I can't ask her, what you got for number 1? I have to say, how did you get your answer for number 1? Because we don't have the exact same figures in our number 1. So we can hit assign one time, but we still can have our students work together, collaborate together, have discussions, not just copy each other's answers. And when they click submit, they're going to see some immediate results. So that is what it looks like in our, what we say, kindergarten through 8th grade space. In high school, you have that digital practice as well, but one additional piece inside of your bag, kindergarten through 8th grade. Once we get out of the textbook, what if we need more practice? The additional practice workbook gives you 2 more pages of additional practice for each and every lesson. Great thing about it, everybody's not performing at the same level once we release them. So there's going to be some intervention questions up in those 2 pages, on-level questions in those 2 pages, advanced level questions in those 2 pages. And then I have students that I need to make some changes to these 2 pages. You have an editable copy of pretty much every worksheet from the program, okay? So if I need to make adjustments to their additional practice pages, I'm able to do so. Total transparency, really the only resource that you don't have an editable copy of print would be the student edition and the intervention materials. But any other worksheet from this program, when we look at assessment worksheets, when we look at those 2 pages of additional practice, when I look at all of the level worksheets, I can make changes and adjustments based on what my students need in the classroom. Now, in my high school space, this is what we're saying for practice. 2 pages. We have the traditional understanding questions, targeting that conceptual understanding. practice questions targeting conceptual, procedural skill and fluency, application questions, and then you also have assessment practice. And that assessment practice is always going to include an ACT, SAT style question, as well as one of those deep, rich performance tasks that they've been experiencing through the lesson, but now I want you to flex and show me what you got on your own. So you have that, but realistically, 2 days on this lesson and my students may still need support at every grade level. So that is the purpose of that Scantron that you're seeing in the high school textbook. But when everyone has access to every grade level, kindergarten through algebra 2, each and every lesson has an additional video for you. And so I'll just go ahead and play this in the background. That video is actually an instructional video that's attached specifically to that lesson. It's going to walk them through step-by-step instruction. They'll see someone talking them through a visual model. If I'm not ready for that, right on the side of the pages are links to the prerequisite videos. So every lesson has a tutor video. So if you really think about it, I see a lot of you writing down 2 videos per lesson. One that's really targeting the concept, and that tutor video, the second video, is really going back and giving us kind of a refresher of what took place with the lesson. Now K-5, they're just going to call them pretty much homework videos, okay? But every grade level has access to tutor videos that are available to refresh our students on those lessons. Now overall application, let's make it fun. Kind of get their face out of the book and let me not throw a long story problem at you there. You're going to sit there and read for 5 minutes because it happens because some of our students are still struggling. What if we can give them a great fun activity to apply what we've been doing with our lessons? There's where 3-act mathematical modeling comes into place. So depending on what grade level you're looking at, kindergarten through 5th grade, you only see it in the odd topics of instruction. So they have 3-act mathematical modeling lessons. If you look at that table of contents, they're strategically placed in your odd topics of instruction. Beginning at grade 6, you'll see it in every topic of instruction. And it's already written into pacing, so it's not like we just threw another extra lesson in. We have to find out how to fit it in. The whole purpose of that is for us to take what students are learning during that topic, but most importantly, let's put it into a real-world problem-solving scenario. So on your tabs, turn to the orange tab. It'll turn to your 3-act mathematical modeling lesson that Andy has earmarked for you. And so what we see in this, it's really 3 things that's happening. The hook, I want to give them a scenario and let's talk about it. I don't want to have a long story problem. I don't want to throw a major equation because I want it low floor, high ceiling. I want every student to be able to engage in the discussion. So with this example, this is elementary. Have a little kid go and get socks out of the dryer without a basket. How many do you think are going to actually make it back to the room? Okay, so now we can talk about it, but then let's give them some little more information. Let's give them some models to work with. Let them come up with an answer, and then all we're doing in Act 3 is providing the solution. We have one with kids with cell phone, and how long would it take a battery to die? And I did that with a group of teens, and they said, oh, well, Ms. Johnson, you must have an iPhone. I got this Galaxy, da-da-da-da. I'm like, whoa. Prove it with your mathematics, because you're going to get those arguments if that answer does not agree with what they have on their paper. But it's always extensions that's available for those activities. The best thing about this is you have the instruction right in your teacher's edition. So we don't have to guess at kind of what should be happening in each stage of basically this real world problem solving experience. We just want to make it fun for our students. And then we always want to give them access to really explore and work in those small groups. Now we look at really EnVision as a problem solving oriented program. We give them exploration with step 1, but that, if you look at those timestamps in your teacher's edition, they're telling us only do that from 10 to maybe 20 minutes. What if I want inquiry? What if I want true exploration as a class period? Online, I would jot this down because you're not going to see it in your printed teacher's edition, K-8. You also have what's called a Let's Investigate lesson. You can use it in lieu of one of those EnVision lessons. So it is going to still work with your pacing for the year. The great thing about it is really this is where we want to foster better mathematical discourse and discussion, and also their time uses of manipulatives. It's based off of the NCTM book, 5 Practices for, orchestrating purposeful discussion.
sure that we're aligned to the standards, and you will find that we do have a total and complete alignment to the Missouri Learning Standards. I also have access, and I will send this to you. I don't know if you've had an opportunity to look at the demo site at all, but we have one that's specifically aligned to the Missouri Learning Standards. So I want to make sure that you have that so you can see how the alignment really works all the way from that K through Algebra 1. Before we really dive into the curriculum, I want to show you some of the things, the ways that we've really built the focus into Eureka Math Squared. Every one of our grade levels, regardless of whether you are, I guess, in first grade or if you are that 8th grade teacher, we are going to have 6 modules built into each one of those grade levels. And each one of those modules will have its own individual teacher books and also individual student books that goes along with it. But after going into each one of the modules, we've also gone into individual topics. And then those topics are divided into lessons. So you have a full year of instruction. One of the things that people have had troubles with in the past when they were implementing Eureka Math is the fact that there was so much material. It was really, really hard for people to get through all of it. So this way, we didn't dumb down the curriculum at all, but we just condensed some of those lessons to make it so it was more manageable for you to be able to get through the entire curriculum in the year. And you can feel very confident that all of the standards that you need to have met are going to be able to be met in each one of those individual levels.
So just to stamp that, you're going to have between like 130, 140 lessons across a whole year for an EM squared kind of scope. So it gives you that wiggle room for more time to think through like response to data, but also just days where you don't have a full day for lessons. It's a bit more accessible.
It's great because also like built in for those snow days and pieces like that as
Is each
well.
lesson supposed to take one day?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, it is based on like a 50 to 60 minute time clock there. One of the things too that we utilized within Eureka Math Squared is the coherence of number bonds and using arrays and tape diagrams and those types of materials for your students to access. We start as early as kindergarten with that, so you can see right here we're working on number bonds in kindergarten where we're actually even using those concrete beans to have them to figure out how to break that down to the 5 beans. So we use those coherently throughout grade levels. So you can see how we're kind of building here, then we're going into the addition pieces. Here we're moving into more of the fractions and multiplication, then moving finally into our decimals. And when we then move into the algebra types of equations with those number bonds. We don't like to, we did not invent these, but we are very coherent in using the same types of why am I drawing a blank to the word? right now. But anyway, the use of models that we're going to use. Sorry about that. 6:15. You guys have been in the classroom all day. So this is just one of the high level, but you'll see this also as you dig in, that we've done that. there if that discourse is taking place. At the beginning, when you start with Eureka Math, we also have the introduction of a talking tool that really helps you to be able to learn how to start having those discourse and those conversations within a math classroom. I think that would have been something that would have been hard for me because that wasn't the way that I was used to teaching math. It was more that I was the one that was up in the front and showing them and doing a lot of telling of how to do it and then sending them off. So we provide a talking tool to put up in that classroom to really start to drive and continue that and encourage that discourse. This is again where it's showing those multiple representations of coming to one of the solutions of the problem. These are just some of the instructional routines that you will see built into the Eureka Math classroom and some of the pieces that go along with it. We are going to engage in one of these in just a minute. But these are just a couple of the things that we, and again, this is not long. And if you can't see, I can kind of go through the dice, we've got some socks, we've got eggs, we've got some cards. And now if you're in my Eureka Math classroom, I should be doing lots of talking right now.
We saved the math question for 6:58.
Oh, that's right. Okay, I totally love this. This is great. Okay, let's see. Do we have a couple solutions? Go ahead, yes.
Oh, you want to tell us what don't belong?
Yeah.
The two dice don't belong. The two dice don't belong.
The two dice don't belong, and what would be your reason why you don't think the two dice belong?
Well, we was talking about how they were pairs.
Okay.
Pairs of socks, pairs of hearts, and the eggs are kind of paired.
Terrific, that's.
But aren't the dice?
That was
There's two of them, but if you look at the dice.
That's one
pair.
pair. That's one pair. Yeah, but those pairs, those pairs all are.
Oh, perfect.
There's 5 pairs, and they all total up to 10. The dice are just 2 pairs of 5.
Okay.
I agree with you.
It gives you a different version of how to get to the number 10, but the dice only does it with 2 things, whereas the others do it with 5 things.
Okay, so you guys, this was great, and I loved this conversation. I have to tell you, Meg and I have done this so many times. I haven't had so many people like really totally engaged like this. I know, there really is no right answer to this, and that's where it's one of those examples of those multiple entry points for your students to get them to start talking. I loved how passionate you guys were, so it was great. So thank you for like joining me in that activity. But yeah, that was. There really is no, it's a great, like that notice and wonder activity that you guys get as well. And you'll see this built in almost every single day, those types of activities referred to. When we talk about the student materials in grades K through 5, we kind of pass some things around. There's a Learn book and there's an Apply book. The Learn book is where the majority of your learning is going to take place each and every day.
Yeah, so they're kind of spread out. So if you have one of the smaller ones, just check in the corner if you have the Learn or the Apply. To the best of my understanding.
Okay, so the Learn book is where the meat of those lessons, you're going to use those Learn books every single day within your student workbooks. You also might notice it seems like there's a lot of problems in there. it is not designed for you to do every single one of those problems. We know that you are the true expert on what's happening with your students, so it may be that this table right here needs to work on problems 1 through 2 in the learn portion, and you guys over here, you're ready to go right on to 6, 7, and 8, because they're ready to, they don't need to have as much of that initial hand holding or help. So you'll see that. The second book is the apply book. I don't know what your philosophy is on homework here. That apply book can be used as a homework piece. I find the majority of my districts, especially through that K through 5, you don't have the apply in 6 and above, that's built into their learn book. But they will use that as their way to, with their special ed students or for those students that need some support, using that apply book. So those are the two. There's manipulative kits that go along with this. We've done very specific manipulative kits. So we know you probably have a gazillion Unifix cubes and counting coins. So we go through and make sure that you get just the things that you would need to be able to utilize Eureka Math Squared. And then finally, we are really proud of our digital platform, and that's where you, as the students, will be able to access it and do some things with digital manipulatives. In the upper grades, they have digital interactives where they're actually like showing their work, and you as a teacher can look and see what's happening as well with what they're doing on individual devices. In the student materials for grades 6 and above, they look a little bit different because they only have that learn book. They do not do the separate apply book, but there are, built within that learn book, opportunities for them to be able to expand their learning or go back and do some relearning of those problems as well. And then again, digital manipulatives. We don't see nearly as many manipulatives because by this point in time, they've really gotten into those pieces where they've got that one down. Okay, so there's also Spanish editions available. And the teacher materials consist of the digital platform and then again, an individual teach book for each one of those modules. You also have the ability on that digital platform to be able to take notes. I love that piece because so if you decide one year that something wasn't working so well for you, then you can go back and see it on your digital platform as well. Inside the teach book, before every single module, we have a module overview that talks about what each one of those topics is going to look like. You'll also notice that we have a before this module. So what were they doing? So we're looking right now at the grade 3 module. What did they do before this module in 2nd grade? And we'll tell you specifically what they've done there. Then we also have what they need to do by the end of this module as well. So it's not that you're like teaching through the entire module to try to figure out what your end point is. We're letting you know right up to the beginning what that is. So why gives you insights to what the writer's decisions were in regards to what they put there and how it is coherent. One of the things I think is a true separator, I don't think you will find this in any other math program at this point in time, is what we call our achievement descriptors. And these achievement descriptors take your standards and break them down to clarify what your students, what that learning looks like of those standards. So how many of you sometimes struggle, like when you look at a standard and say, what are they really supposed to be doing? The achievement standard is going to tell you what those students, what knowing that standard looks like. And then we have the rubrics in the back that will show you if they are proficient or medium proficiency or highly proficient. You'll have those broken down not only for standards but also for each one of your lessons as well. You'll see those achievement descriptors.
Just to highlight this, it is like a very synthesized, quick way to digest the standards if you're someone who hasn't deeply done that work or just are not as familiar, and it helps you know where you are on like the continuum of mastery. So it helps you know like at this point or in this lesson, should we fully have this mastered? Is it something that we would expect to see them progressing? And so it condenses that down, again, with that lens of the teachability, and like, again, you can't pick it up at 7:58, but how are we thinking about supporting those pieces that sometimes can take a lot of support and prep before you're in front of your students? The descriptors are just a huge piece of that, and really supporting the efficiency there and the clarity. And I'll talk about assessments in addition, and kind of tie back there too.
Then we also talk about the key questions. Every lesson has an exit ticket. So you get that exit ticket. We present that exit ticket at the very beginning of the lesson, so it shouldn't come as a surprise. So you're prepared to know what those students need to be able to do at the end of that lesson as well. It's just a great way to assess what their understanding was for the day. The key question talks about what the learning is going to look like for that day. The lesson plans. We also have achievement descriptors built into those as well. Every lesson with Eureka Math Squared looks the same. We start off with that fluency that's designed to be about 5 minutes. We then move into the launch, which were those, again, those high ceiling, low floor activities that we talked about. The learn is the real true meat of the lesson. That's where you're going to go in and start doing word problems and your practice, your individual practice or some group practice together. And then finally, the land is where we do our exit ticket. It helps you get that, they'll take a little snapshot to see how your students did that day, where you need to start the next day, and go on from there. But you will see this consistently. That's why one of the things by adopters across the state that have really loved, that now that they're like in their 3rd year of implementation, have said that it's made a huge difference when their kids are even transferring from like elementary school into middle school into the high school, that it makes that transition so much easier because those routines in math have stayed the same for their students. So then these are just examples of what the presentation slides look like. So that in the fluency, and if we had more time, I would have us go through this, one of these fluency activities. But this is just where we're going to we would be looking at some of the slides, talking about the multiplication patterns that we see within these slides, utilizing dice.
Just a real quick while you have that up, Susan. So the left side is basically the equivalent of what you have in the hard copy teacher guidance, and then on the right side you can see the slides that you can project. So in tandem you can see those different pieces. So it again just like quickly gives you a sense of like, here's my lesson and then here's the slides at the end of it.
So here's some of the example of those. In the launch, this is again kind of one of those activities where we're starting with that low floor again. We're building some context. We're supporting that productive struggle. This would be again like that slide that I showed you before. What do you think is right or wrong? I would ask you a question about the cards. Say, Mary had a deck of cards. She placed them in 4 rows with 4 columns. Which one of the slides represent this? And then you could talk amongst yourself to say which one you think would represent that. So that would be in your launch piece. And then the learn is just split into instructional segments that really designed to support that lesson objective. That's where we'll see again some of the context videos built in, the digital interactive pieces as well. Here's just another example of the context video. This is a 3rd grade one. And so again, this would be when we say, what did you notice and what did you wonder about it? You will get multiple answers to this. It might be, some people would say, oh, I went to the amusement park before. Other people will say, oh, there were 10 cars, or I saw that there were 3 people that could fit into each car, there were 2 people. So this just gives you some examples again, and we're working that multiplication piece again within that. This is an example of some of our digital interactives where we would have the students take abstract concepts and make them more accessible. Again, we're providing very entry points for them. Some students might need to be still using the shape diagrams, or some of the other ones are maybe going to be using the number bonds, but they have the ability to be able to do that on that digital piece as well. And then finally, again, we get to the land portion. Inside your teach books, when you look at it, you will see all of the different blue squares that talk about the types of different support that we've built into Eureka Math Squared. There's differentiation, language support, differentiation for challenging, differentiation for supporting those that are struggling? Okay.
I can talk through assessments.
Talk through the assessments.
Do you want to pull
Yep.
that slide up? So one thing I want to highlight with assessments, so there's kind of two sides of assessments within EM squared. So we have a piece called Equip, which is an additional layer of support and speaks to really thinking about how do you in advance identify skills that students are going to need to be successful in different lessons. So they take a pre-assessment at the beginning of a module, and it's adaptive, and then if you get one question wrong, sometimes you will get a follow-up question to really isolate and backtrack skills that are missing. And so it will give you a report before you start your module of all your students who take the Equip assessment and map out, you guys need to spend 20 minutes with me reviewing this skill before we do lesson 10. Y'all need to sit down with me and we need to look way back to like this standard before we're doing lesson 23. And so it maps out and then gives you actual lessons that are like quick that you can pull if you have like 20 minutes. If you don't have 20 minutes, you can bring it in and say, okay, most of my students need this. I might bring it into my core math 10 too. So it gives you a lot of support to leverage anyone in your building who is supporting all of your students being able to be ready and successful in those lessons, but it actually gives you the data in a way where you can think about your students, how you need to respond proactively to respond to it. So one thing I want to highlight, because many of us have probably lived in spaces where we tried to be our own Equips and like build it ourselves and then figure out what do I do once we know what your gap is. So that is one big piece of the assessment side. And then this is the other side of just we have kind of a range of summative and formative assessments within each module. So in K2, there's observational assessment, reporting sheets. Every lesson has exit tickets. There's topic quizzes, module assessments. As you move up in grades, there's multiple versions. And then there's also an option that you can add in benchmark assessments, which are 3 across the year. And then again, those Equip pieces.
And I do love that Equip piece. That's one of the pieces that people love because you do not have to go back and design those lessons on your own. So that's okay. We flew through a lot of this. The other thing I think is really, really important is the professional development. That's where Meg really comes in. From the very moment that we start our conversations with you, I bring her in to look, what does professional learning look like in Riverview Gardens? What are you needing from your standpoint? Is it that you struggle with teacher turnover? How can we make this easier for our students to access something? Are you struggling with intervention types of pieces? So we can really look at that and provide not only foundational professional development, but we do tons of coaching. Walk classrooms with you.
The team of coaches who are in our buildings every day with our teachers in the classrooms, teaching lessons, completely.
And that's Meg's really big piece, and I think that that is something I feel so proud. I've worked several different places, but I do feel like our professional development is really geared to really help you as an individual district and really try to customize it to make it work like that. So we talked a little bit about the standards. We talked about the coherence and the rigor that's built into it. One thing I don't think we touched on is the parent component that's built in as well. We also have parent dates that you can send home with your students as well that really engage the parents in what the math is looking like in that classroom. I'm going to send out a demo to you to see what the digital component actually looks like so that you can actually play with that on your own as well. I think it will give you a bit of bigger, we would have did a really high level overview of this today, but it'll give you some time to take a deeper dive. And we'd love the opportunity to be able to show you even more into Eureka Math Squared. I also want to be respectful because I know it's really late for you guys. So, if any questions, I am more than happy. Email, phone calls. Meg and I are both local, and so we are here, and we would love the opportunity to partner.
Still in 30 seconds because it's my favorite slide.
Yeah.
Coming from someone who loves literacy a lot as well, I just wanted to highlight the readability piece because I know everybody has this in front of them. So you'll see keywords in a lot of the lower grade level examples, especially that will have support for like pictures too. So like where there's a frog or a paint or color, so that that's not the barrier. Because a lot of times I was sitting at a table being like, well, why did the student not know how to do the work? So if you didn't get a chance to flip through it, just that you don't work on. But just to highlight, because I think it's so critical and thinking about accessibility for all your students. So, sorry.
Okay. And I don't move fast.
I'm a
Thank you guys
pacing
so much.
dream,
Have
y'all.
a wonderful, enjoy your break.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for the work you're doing. It's a tough job. And we are so appreciative of this work from our educators. So have a great break. Thank you. We're really bad at
Okay, our final presentation is Big Ideas Learning. We have Sam and Nita. We're going to come on over.
Hi. How about I give you a 7th grade? What do you want? Let me get rid of these
Thank you, Susan. Oh, thank you. I'm going to send you a digital walkthrough. I'm so sorry we couldn't get through that. Thank you. Have a great break.
Thanks for standing in front of that. I like teacher comes out. I like stand in the back. Of course, so I know I forgot my yeah, I know, it was like, I can bring you one sample. Pre-algebra is called Computer Accelerated. Anyone want a fourth grade sample? High school. I'll be right back. Let me get some high school.
Tired all day. Yeah. Try to pass that, sir.
Yes, Sam. Sam should be there. Yes.
No, we'll get started in just a moment. You grab some pizza, grab something. Come on back. We'll get started.
I'll try to go back good.
We're going to pass out some student expectations at your tables.
Student edition. Yep.
Recording stopped.
Who else was high school?
She saw me. She saw you.
Do you have a preference of samples? High school, middle school, elementary school?
What about
I'll do that.
Okay. No, it's like she's gonna bring me the elementary grades. Do you remember those things? That's what I had at Riverview. They were so cool.
They on the string. I have
And they were like
Have that too.
Okay. First grade. And then you get your algebra. Everybody requested the algebra 1. So split teacher edition.
No, I didn't.
So you telling me you love it?
Automatically, like us.
Yay! Oh, they're not fuzzy though.
Oh, I don't know. Silver.
I see what you're saying. I remember that.
Don't go them now. Or it's too Did you get the squishy dice? I got more too, so if you need a couple. Do you need squishy dice? You want a squishy dice? I got more. I got more.
I mean, he did kind of
Not that grade level preference.
All right, y'all, we're going to get started just really quickly while Nina's still passing some things out. Get some student editions, teacher editions available. I know you've been through already. Recording. I know you've been through a couple of these already. It's the end of the night, so get excited for the last one. Almost done. Let's go. All right, here we go. My name is Sam Savvas. I am your sales rep, actually with National Geographic Learning in Cengage. We have heard of those. And you're probably like, well, Sam, we're not here for National Geographic Learning. We're here for big ideas. National Geographic Learning, first thing you think of when it pops up, you think of those great images, you think of the great magazine. You know, a lot of you probably have had those or family members. My dad had them, my grandpa had them, and passed down. Science and social studies is all over National Geographic Learning. So instead of writing our own curriculum and focusing that attention there, we partnered with Big Ideas Learning. They're a math-only company. They eat, breathe, sleep math only. So you won't find that in a lot of other places, that they focus truly on just math. So instead of pulling resources from another location, we strictly have Big Ideas Learning going through this math product. And today, you're going to see our K-12 brand new math suite resource that we're so excited to share with you called Math and You. When it gets to the Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2, you'll notice it's concepts and connections, but it's still a part of the Math and You suite. Another thing you'll notice, and Jackson will get to him in a moment, you'll notice that it's the same authorship team that goes K through 12. A big name that you probably see on there is Ron Larson. Many of you know who he is. AP Calculus and Calculus, he's kind of known for those higher ones. He actually used backwards design and went all the way back to kindergarten and wrote this brand new K-12 suite. So that continuity is there for your students. Now, I also brought with me my regional manager, my boss, Nina, who just went around the corner here. And you can tell Nina brought her future boss as well with her. So,
Let's hope not.
The baby has been hearing all about this resource, I'm sure, too. So we're very excited for Nina. Unfortunately, we had another person who's going to come with us today on his way to St. Louis. He had a medical emergency. He was going to be here in person. This is unusual for us, I will tell you up front. It's unusual to not have a presenter from Big Ideas in person, and we want to make that very clear. For implementation, for all of our trainings that we will do at Riverview, we'll be in person. We are here. Nina and I are both local, both from St. Louis. We were both teachers in the St. Louis area. I taught for 13 years in the Parkway School District before jumping over and now providing these amazing curriculum resources for you all too. So, today we also have Jackson Hewlett, who he's on Zoom. He lovingly stepped in, one of our other great content specialists for Big Ideas, lovingly stepped in, and he got to talk with our presenter that was in the hospital, got to talk with him today and kind of put together this plan specifically for you all. I'm going to be passing some things out as we go along, a little postcard with more information just for Riverview that you can take a look at, and then we'll get more questions or anything Nina and I can get back to you. Before Jackson begins and I hand it over to him, I want you to think about three things during this presentation. These three big pillars of this K-12 program.
The first one is that partnership, not only with big ideas and all of our amazing resources we can provide throughout the length of the adoption, but also with National Geographic Learning and us being local as well. How we can pull those in and use that to make sure that their learning is relevant for your students. Speaking of student relevancy, we want to make sure that the students have this buy-in for you. So make sure that you're listening to Jackson about what is that buy-in, what does learning look like for your students, and see that relevancy. And then also the last one, very important, is that teacher impact. So take a listen to Jackson as he talks about those 3 pillars and how, as teachers, this is an easy resource that you can use and make meaningful impact for your students. So, I've talked a lot, but since we're Zoom, I also wanted to make sure to chat with you. We'll come back at the end and we'll make sure that we can chat through some of those pillars again so you can see what we have to offer for this K-12 program. We are so honored to be here at Riverview Gardens, and we are so excited to have Jackson. Jackson, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Hot dog. Yay. Hold on, Jack. They want to see your beautiful face. There we go. Jackson, Riverview Gardens. Here's Jackson. Thank you again for being so flexible. Nina and I will be around, kind of walking through if you need any help as well. Any questions that come up, let me know. We'll interrupt Jackson for you. Okay? All you, Jackson.
Sam, thank you so much for that introduction, and I want to start off by thanking all of you for this long night and being here as you learn about the unique and remarkable features that we have to offer with our Math and U program. As we go through the presentation today, I encourage you to ask questions and take note of things that you like about the program. I want you to think about, kind of Sam already addressed this, but the ways that we can impact the teachers so they can impact students. So every single student within the classroom and within the district can accelerate their learning. Because we're doing a presentation for kindergarten all the way up to Algebra 2, again, Sam already hit on this, but you will see some nuanced differences. From elementary to middle school, it is our Math and U program, but for high school, it is called our Concepts and Connections. And Sam already addressed this, but again, you're going to see that backwards design and that consistency and cohesion as you go throughout the grade levels. So I spent 15 years teaching mathematics, everything from 5th grade to geometry. Sure, you haven't heard this before, but I did in the classroom. Why do we have to learn this? Why is it important? One of the things that we address here at Big Ideas is how do students see the relevance of math? We do this in a myriad of ways, but we start off with the students starting to think about their future selves. And as teachers, I want you to think about who inspired you to be a teacher. What kind of impact did they have on you? And I want you to think about what kind of impact you're going to have on the students in your classroom right now. All those beautiful smiling faces that you get to see every single day. We want the students to start thinking about their future selves and what they can become outside the classroom. We want to drive home that relevancy. How math is not just some abstract concept that has no relevance, but again, how can it be applied to the real world? And we want to make sure that we're giving every teacher, you the teacher, that impact, those tools necessary to reach every single student. Again, we've already talked about this, but again, you're going to hear the word partnership a lot. Because again, we are Big Ideas, and we partner with National Geographic, Cengage, and you will see at the beginning of each chapter, we have an extensive library of career exploration videos, and in high school, National Geographic Explorer videos. Again, so to introduce the students to different careers and STEM-related fields so they can see what's outside the classroom, how they can get into these fields, and how math is used on a daily basis. And in high school, these National Geographic Explorers, these are actual people that the students can follow online if they so desire. Again, we're going to be going through different components of our presentation. As we do that, we'll be focusing on different grade bands. At the beginning, we're going to focus on elementary. Here you can see our digital experience. On the left-hand side is our learning pathway, or a table of contents, how the teachers can navigate. At the beginning of each chapter, we start off with a career exploration video. Again, this is a short snippet of a second grade career that the students would be exposed to.
Welcome back to the show. I'm Newton, and here's what's cooking in the news today. The music teacher will be providing lunch this afternoon since he has the best beats. The school cooks placed phones in the garden this morning, so they can't cauliflower. And now we'll go to Descartes in the field. Descartes, what do you have for us today?
A chef, Newton, a real life chef. Descartes here, and today we're gonna get a little taste of what it's like to be a chef. Ashley, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Thanks, Descartes. Hi, I'm Ashley, and I'm an executive chef.
I'm very excited to be here with you, Ashley.
Awesome, I'm excited to be here with you too.
Awesome. So I have a lot of questions for you.
All right.
First up, what is a chef?
A chef is somebody who is the top person in the kitchen that helps organize things and writes the menu and makes sure everything comes out delicious and beautiful. I get to think about different colors, flavors, textures, temperatures even. Plus, when you're done with it, you get to eat it. That's the best part.
That is the best part.
Turn everything on. Ovens, fryers.
I wish that we had a fryer at home because I would fry fish all the time.
Do you like fish and chips? Because that's one of my favorite ways to have fried fish.
I love fish and chips.
Awesome.
What kind of math do you do as a chef?
In the kitchen, I use a lot of math. I love counting, addition, subtraction.
Are you going to make me something delicious today?
I'd love to if you'll have me.
I would love to have it.
These are ingredients that we're going to use to make some guacamole. It's one of my favorite things to make.
Let's get it started.
Guacamole comes from Mexico. So in Mexico, they have a lot of ingredients like we see on the table here. For guacamole, you use avocados, tomatoes, onions, jalapenos, garlic, cilantro, and lime juice. If you don't like your guacamole as spicy, you can always subtract 1 jalapeno from your recipe.
Oh, do you ever change the size of a recipe?
To make a larger batch, I would double the ingredients by adding 3 more avocados, 2 more tomatoes, 1 onion, 1 jalapeno, 1 garlic, 1 cilantro, and 1 lime.
Who taught you how to make guacamole?
I looked in at some cookbooks, so if you ever want to learn how to cook something, that's a really good place to start. So we're going to take our guacamole and we're going to put it in this nice bowl so that we can serve it to our friends.
Thanks for answering all my questions about being a chef, Ashley.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Descartes. Yeah. This was a lot of fun.
You're welcome. All right, back to you, Newton.
Holy guacamole! That looks delicious! Thanks, Descartes. Being a chef sounds like so much fun. Now that you know more, would you like to be a chef? I know that I would. Well, that'll do it for the news today. I'm Newton, and we'll see you next time. Bye!
I really think I should have eaten before watching that video. I think we start off each chapter with one of those career exploration videos. Not only do we offer those videos to be shown to the students, we also want to offer embedded within the print or in our digital experience ways to get that mathematical discourse, ways to get the students engaged in discussing those careers, which will be embedded whether it's in the print or digital experience. And beyond that, we will actually have problems within each lesson that relate to those careers that the students were exposed to. And at the end of each chapter, we will have chapter assessments, but we also have a performance task. This is a chance or an opportunity for the students to show their mastery of the content while still digging in a little deeper into those careers. Again, thank you for Sam and Nina being there today. I am asking you at this point to open up one of your teaching editions. So for elementary to middle school, it will be just a teaching edition. For high school, it's called an instructional guide / teaching edition. I'd encourage you to go to the beginning of the chapter. At the beginning of the chapter, you will see a learning target and success criteria, the coherence to the chapters and the grades. And then you will see some notes from our co-authors about the essential background of the math. But past that, you will see at the beginning of a chapter a career that the students are going to be exposed to. So again, regardless of the grade level, regardless of the chapter you pick, go to the beginning of a chapter, flip 3 or 4 pages, and you will see a chapter introduction. And I want you to think about, if you were in the classroom, how could you get your students talking about those careers? Again, you will see those prompts to guide those discussions if you don't know anything about them and you need a little help. But think about how this would look in your classroom. And as we go through this, please, again, we have Sam and Nina there, please ask questions if you can't find something, if you do find it, and if you want to look out for your buddy. I also encourage you, again, to take note of certain things that you like about our program, and share with your shoulder partners. Something that you like, something that you think would be impactful, effective within your classroom. So I'll give you a second to look. And we are looking at the beginning of a chapter. I look at a chapter or two, look at the beginning, look at those careers, whether they're career exploration or National Geographic Explorer STEM-related fields. Think about the conversations you could have with those students. Again, starting for them to start thinking about their future selves. Again, when you find something, share with a partner, someone sitting close by. What is something that you liked about this? How could this be impactful in your classroom? Well, I know it's a little later at night. Hopefully you were able to find that. Again, make sure you're looking out for one another. We're going to dive in a little deeper.
Jackson, I'm going to have them share just a couple things that they were able to find real quick.
That sounds great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Did anybody see anything in the teacher edition that stood out to them? They shared, yes.
Well, CTE teacher here. I love the fact that it starts with a career and it ends with a career in the high school level. Yeah. Yep.
Yep, absolutely. I love.
Right. Well, you could
I also love the National Geographic Explorer simply because they are really showing how in everyday exploration you have to have a math background.
Right.
So I think that's so relevant. What else? Anyone else find anything else that stood out?
I like the practice problems in each section.
Yeah, spoken like a true math educator. I do too.
Well, and you'll notice too, like in the elementary we're talking about at this table, one of the things you notice first in elementary is how spread out, how colorful it is, right? There's space.
Yes,
for those.
we like that too.
Yeah, it's not going to be crammed. You're not going to. The student won't feel overwhelmed.
Yes.
So that's what we're talking about at the table.
Word searches, absolutely, yes. You're going to find all kinds of it. Did anyone find a surprising career that they thought, oh, I wouldn't expect to find this one in a math book? Urban planner, yeah. Anyone else?
I don't want to
Fine.
Does he still have more? Next week he'll
Yes, absolutely.
We're here to talk.
Yeah, no, but I just want to break it up a little bit so we're not just staring at a computer screen, you know, sharing The differentiated resources, a big, big component of this core instruction is being able to have differentiated resources built in at point of use. So that's something that I know Jackson will spend some time on, so
And the
we'll go over that.
SEL connections as well, having the leader levels right on the page for those students, those teachers right away. Yeah.
Took it right out of your mouth.
That's what we were just gonna say, that we saw the correlation with the WIDA standards, that was.
Very important. Okay, Jackson, sorry to monopolize some of your time. Go for it.
Don't worry. All right, next we are looking at our big idea of the chapter. Not only will the students, we want to make sure and hone in on that overarching theme, we also want to make sure that we're providing those resources. Now, if the students were to scan that QR code that can be found in the student edition, there will be resources provided to the students. At the elementary level, there are resources and family activities to get those students engaged. So when you get those emails, what's going on in my child's life, again, they will be able to find those ways to reinforce those mathematical concepts that are being taught on a daily basis. In middle school and high school and secondary, again, they still have access to those resources. Again, they will have videos and the content that is relevant to where they're at in the lesson. So if they miss class or if they need reinforcement of certain concepts, they will have access to that just by scanning the QR codes. Beyond that, periodically, after every few chapters, we will have connecting the big ideas. This allows the students to show their progression of their learning as they go throughout the year while applying their mathematical knowledge to real-world scenarios. And we also want to make sure that we have the ability to, the students have the ability to talk about and analyze data, to have those cross-curricular connections, whether it's environmental connections or STEM-related. And of course, we always want to take that learning to the next level and making sure that those students have the ability to connect their mathematical understanding to the real-world scenarios. And we included problems, again, that the students can relate to, that they can get excited about learning about. And here we have 3 word problems. I want you to take a second and read over them. I want you to pay attention. What do you notice from what don't you notice?
I can't read it from this far.
Well, if you can't see it that well, I apologize. But one of the things that we've done at Big Ideas is we've taken out the names of the students and instead replaced it with you, your friend, your family. We want every student, regardless of their background or experiences, to be able to see themselves in the math, to see themselves as mathematicians, and to get excited about learning new concepts. And in the elementary, we were very intentional about the images that we used. Again, we want to make sure that every student feels represented within our curriculum. So, how do students take part in the learning? At Big Ideas, we have a balanced approach to rigor. Early on the lesson, we start off with your investigate. Again, being a former math teacher, I know sometimes as math teachers, we have a tendency to go straight to the algorithm, to the process. But here at Big Ideas, we want to start off with the investigate, where the students are able to work on their conceptual understanding of the mathematics. After they move past that, we move to the learn, where the students are able to master and work on their procedural fluency. And after that, again, they apply their mathematical knowledge to real-world connections. On the next page, we are looking at a launch, and so just so you know, for elementary, the beginning of a lesson is called a dig-in. For middle school, it's called a motivate. For high school, it's called a launch. We're going to be looking at a launch for an Algebra 1 lesson on graphing linear functions. The reason we do this is we want to have an access point for every single student to get into the lesson. We've all heard students say, I can't do it, I don't understand it, it's too hard. We ease the students into the learning. From what I hear, students like to talk, and we understand learning is a social activity. So on the next problem, or the next page, I would like you to think of 4 coordinates that have a sum of 5. I'll give you a second to think about that. Again, this is graphing linear functions, easing them into the lesson. These are, all the questions here are based on prior knowledge, things that the students should have already mastered as they come into this lesson. Next, here are some examples of some coordinate pairs. And then you're able to have that conversation of, could they come up with the sum of 5, and were all their numbers integers, or did they come up with some rational numbers? Next, students, I want you to take these coordinate pairs and plot them on a coordinate graph. This allows you to see whether the students are able to actually plot points on a coordinate grid. Next, students, I want you to come up with the equation based upon the graph you see. Again, as you go through this, whether they're doing it individually or collectively, we encourage the students to use those collaborative strategies, but again, easing into that lesson, the teacher's able to get that formative data to see where the students are at in their learning, whether they need to backfill something or they can proceed. After the dig in, motivate, or launch, we move on to the investigate. In the investigate, a lot of times the students are using manipulatives, whether they're digital or physical, again, starting to work on their conceptual understanding of the math. Next, we move on to the learn, where they start learning about the key concept that they're going to be covering for that lesson. And one of the great things is, as you can see on this page, underneath that key concept, there's an example that students can find in their student edition that's worked out. But we also offer videos that go along with it. This can be found in their digital experience, or the teachers could push it out. We're going to watch one of the examples now.
Use intercepts to graph the equation 3x plus 4y equals 12. Solution. Step 1, find the intercepts. To find the x-intercept, substitute 0 for y and solve for x. Write the original equation. Substitute 0 for y. Solve for x. The result is x equals 4.
Regardless of where the students are at in their learning, we want to make sure that we're providing those resources for whether they miss class or, again, there's some misconceptions they need to address that it's easy for them to find. After the examples, we have an in-class practice, a way to get that quick check, that formative data to see where they're at in their learning. And one of the great things about Big Ideas Learning is the teacher has that autonomy to deliver instruction as they see fit. Whether it's projecting, the students are using paper and pencil, or the students are using the digital experience and working online. And the teacher has that ability to do some of the lesson, print and paper, or online, again, just to see fit to meet the needs of their students. And if they're using it online, the students get that immediate feedback on how well they're doing. And not only do the students get feedback, but the teacher does as well. So again, they can make those instructional changes as they go along. After we move past that, again, we get to that connections to real life, making sure that they can apply their mathematical knowledge to those real-world scenarios. And beyond that, we move to the practice. The practice, it progresses in complexity as they go through the problems. And another great thing, when you choose to partner with us, is we also offer CalcView and CalcChat free of charge. Now, you saw the example videos that can be found in the digital experience, but the students also have access to CalcView. In CalcView, there are selected problems where they are worked out by a college professor. Again, so if they miss class or they're, again, having some issues with the understanding of those mathematical concepts, they can watch those videos. We also offer CalcChat, which is available from Sunday to Thursday evening, where the students can go online and get help from a live tutor. The tutors are retired and part-time teachers and grad students who've been vetted. They use the Socratic method because they don't want to give the students the answer. They want to work on deepening their understanding of those mathematical concepts. Again, these are offered free of charge and the students have access to once you choose to partner with us.
And I always like the disclaimer, sorry Jackson, to say this is turned off by the teacher should you want them to have access to it, or the administrators. So they don't have to be able to use the live tutors, but they can if you give them access during assignments.
And the hours are only after school, so they're not going to be doing it during
After
class.
school, yes.
Yeah. Math professionals during your class, that's not allowed.
All right, so we showed you some of the formative data that you collect, but also at the end of the chapter, we want to make sure we have that summative data. Here you can see a chapter practice test, and again, on our digital experience. We offer those practice tests at end of chapter assessment. We have quizzes, and we have an alternate assessment. And when you're logged in, once you get those, again, you see those eyes. Anytime you see an eye within our digital experience, you're actually able to modify those assignments and assessments. Here on the next page, you can see some of your modification options. Again, you can copy and edit, reorder and rearrange. You can, again, meet and adjust those and modify those assignments to meet the needs of your students, because we understand that each class and each student has at a different part of their learning. And beyond that, we want to make sure that if you're able to give those assessments, that you're able to get those reports to determine where your students are at in their learning, and again, to fill those gaps and to push those students who are at or above grade level. And here are some of your reporting options. So beyond the formative and summative, we also offer a diagnostic assessment. It's our diagnostic adaptive progressive assessment. And just as it sounds, it does adapt based upon the student's performance and can be given up to 5 times a year. So how do you impact student learning? With you, the teacher. Again, we've already said this before, but we are a partnership. We want to be lifelong partners. We want to make sure that we understand your needs of the district, where you're at with your teachers and in the learning, and how comfortable they feel with our program. Because of that, we are able to create an implementation plan so that every teacher feels comfortable and confident as they use our program, and they feel comfortable accessing and utilizing the resources that we have to meet the needs of those students. So that we can ensure that each teacher has the instructional practices to accelerate learning for all students. Again, because of our partnership with John Hattie and the Visible Learning Network, with the implementation of our program with Fidelity, up to 2 years of growth can be achieved. This can be achieved through ensuring that we're using feedback on a daily basis, that we have that ability to have class discussions, that mathematical discourse, and get the students engaged in learning on one another's understanding of mathematical concepts. And we have that teacher clarity, so that everyone in the classroom understands the expectation of that lesson. And here you can see some of our co-authors, that you will see some of their insights and notes as you go through the teaching edition. I like to think of them as a co-teacher. Whether you've been a master teacher or you're brand new and just trying to survive, you will see those notes embedded to help you as a teacher deliver those instructional practices as you plan and deliver that instruction to reach every single student. Here you can see some of Dr. Edia White's notes, again, ensuring that every teacher feels comfortable as they set up a safe learning environment where every student can thrive. We also have here Nick's notes, that essential background. So if the students move from class to class or campus to campus, there's that consistency and cohesion, the language that each teacher is using. And because, like Sam talked about before, that backwards design, the students are set up for success in future years. Now again, this can be found in the teaching edition, but we also have videos that can be used whether the teachers are in professional learning communities or math department time as a plan to make sure that they're meeting the needs of their students.
Hi, Nick Lopez here with Big Ideas Learning, and I wanted to take the next few minutes to talk to you about some of the big ideas and key concepts that students are going to be exploring in this upcoming chapter. In this chapter, students are conceptually developing their understanding of division. Division is a new operation, and so all the vocabulary associated with division will be new to students. We want to provide opportunities for them to interact and work with counters, to be able to create equal groups or equal rows as they're navigating this new mathematical operation. The chapter begins with students taking a look at how to use an array to divide. The context here is that there's 12 counters, and our goal is to put them into 3 equal rows. Question is, how many counters then will be in each row? We have new vocabulary that we want to connect students with, so 12 being the dividend, which is the total number of counters, 3 being the divisor, which is the number of groups in which we're going to place the counters in, and 4 being the quotient, or the number of counters that end up in each row. So asking students where within the visual is 12 represented, where is the 3 represented, and where is the 4 represented, should be underlying conversation throughout the chapter as they're building a connection between this abstract representation and this visual representation of division as an operation. The other thing to keep top of mind is that students then also will lean into using operations that they already know to make connections between division and multiplication. Often students will use the inverse operation to make connections between operations, just like they do with addition and subtraction. We want the same conversations to exist within division and multiplication. The other thing that I would say to keep top of mind is just knowing that there are plenty of opportunities for problem solving, and so having students being able to work in collaborative groups, talking through and making sense of the problem, and then asking students to visually represent the mathematics that's in front of them using some of the visuals that were provided in previous chapters. Thank you for checking in, and I look forward to connecting with you in the next video.
Again, this is a teacher-facing video. You'll see that essential background at the beginning of a chapter. There are also lesson plans provided within our digital experience. Now, this was teacher-facing, but there are also student or family-facing videos that can be shared to reinforce those things that are going on and the great things that are going on in the classroom. And you'll also find family letters that can be sent out, both in English and in Spanish, to reinforce those concepts and get those families engaged with what's going on in the classroom. So at this time, I know some of you have already talked about that, and I love that you're exploring. If you will open up one of your teaching editions, and this time we started previously at the beginning of a chapter, we are now going to go to the beginning of a lesson. So regardless of the chapter, if you will find a lesson, you know where you are at the beginning of a lesson when you see the green box on the top left. That is our learning target, again, overarching theme, that expectation, and that success criteria, that learning pathway for the students. So I'll give you a second. Again, if you have any questions, if you'll ask Nina or Sam. But if you'll go to the beginning of a chapter, and we are going to look at some of the resources that are embedded to help those teachers as they plan and deliver instruction. So again, at the beginning, right underneath that, at the beginning of each lesson, we have that begin, motivate, or launch, depending upon your grade band. So if you will find one of those, that begin, motivate, or launch, and as we go through, I want you to hone in on those green targets. Those green targets are a way to get those students engaged, have those mathematical discussions, and again, tie that learning back to the learning target. And when you see something that you like that would be impactful within your classroom, if you'll make note of it and share with the partner.
So there is a dig in and a motivate, or motivate, depending on which book you're in, for every single lesson. So it's going to be at the beginning of the lesson in the teacher's division.
And it'll be right underneath that green box, that learning target success criteria. Again, elementary will be a dig in. For middle school, 6 through 8 will be a motivate, and for high school will be a launch. We move past that. We get into the investigate. Again, if you will look at, try to find some of those red question marks. Now, this book is not meant to be a script. Rather, it is meant to have those tools embedded. If you're new to a content, again, if you didn't have enough time to plan, to have those question marks, formative assessment strategies, collaborative strategies, to get those students engaged, to have that mathematical discourse. With that being said, as I've given trainings all throughout the country, I've known plenty of teachers who've carried around the teaching edition just so they felt comfortable asking those questions to those students. And when the students have those misconceptions, they can easily address them. And also I want you to hone in on that differentiating instruction. We understand that the students are coming in with different ability levels, and adjusting on the fly can be cumbersome to say the least, so we want to make sure that we have those notes so the teacher feels comfortable differentiating instruction as they go throughout a lesson. I'll give you a second to look at that. You'll also, again, see those formative assessment strategies or collaborative strategies, whether it's checking for...
For just a second, so sorry.
No.
It's 1 minute before 8. Are you guys okay if we go like 5 more minutes?
You can say no if you say, get out of here.
Well, here's the deal. Jackson,
All right, 5 more minutes.
I can wrap up in 3 minutes.
And then we'll leave 2 minutes for question and answers. And any other questions that come in, we can filter through you and we'll provide screenshots or screen recordings.
Perfect.
All right.
Hold on.
So here.
Hold on, Jackson.
Oh, go ahead. Well, I want to ask about CalView and...
Perfect. I'll go into that in a second. Wrap up, Jackson, and then we'll go into Chat.
Roger that. Again, you'll see those quick checks and the guides for which problems to focus on, because we understand time is finite. You'll see those answers, that ability to get that exit ticket. And while you're digging in, hopefully you've had a chance to see that EL support. Because we understand differentiating instruction doesn't mean you're not only having to differentiate for mathematical issues, but also making sure that everyone has that ability to access the material regardless of their reading or language acquisition levels. Because there is no cookie cutter approach to learning, we have that tiered support. So in the middle of the lesson, right before the practice, you'll see that tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. You will find that in our teaching edition, but you'll also find it within our digital experience. Within our digital experience, you'll have that extra practice. That extra practice is for those tier 1 students who are in grade level. But not only can you print it off online, but we also have a practice workbook, consumable. And Nina and Sam can talk more about that later. But again, that is also an option for you. But beyond that tier 1, we also have those dig deepers, or those extension activities for those students to accelerate their learning quickly. But for those students who need that additional help, we have our skill builder. This is set up for those students who need that small bump to get to grade level. And we also have tier 3 support, or our skill foundation, for those students who are below grade level. And notice on the far right, we have those teaching notes for those students who may not have taught this content before, who need that reminder. And if you're pushing out assignments, you're able to push out those assignments either to the entire class or by groups, whether it's user created or the teacher creates it. Because again, with our partnership, this is something that we don't just drop off the program and say to the best of luck. We actually have an implementation plan and trainings that go along with you to ensure that every teacher feels comfortable and confident. And again, whether you are a new teacher, or it's a follow-up training, or you're at the point where you want those specialized trainings, whether it's cooperative strategies, building thinking classrooms, things like that. We have plans in place to make sure that we're meeting the needs of your teachers so they can impact student learning. So we're going to skip this video, but again, not only do you have people like Sam and myself, a consultant who will deliver the trainings, you also have customer support specialists, and you have people on the IT to make sure the integration is seamless, to make sure that everyone feels comfortable, and get those reports so you know where your teachers are at and how we can best support you.
Okay, Jackson, we let you go 30 seconds over.
So hopefully today, this is my last page, hopefully today you've seen that relevance. Students start thinking about their future selves. They see those careers and see what they can do outside the classroom. They see how it's relevant to the real world. They see those U problems, see themselves as mathematicians. And we also see that balanced approach to rigor, that conceptual understanding, movement procedural. And again, the teachers have that autonomy to deliver instruction, whether they want to do paper and pencil or the digital. And those notes, whether it's that essential background, those ways to connect the students to get that mathematical discourse and those discussions. And that tiered support to meet the needs of a diverse group of learners. Listen, I thank you for so much for your time. I'm sorry we ran a little bit late. Again, my name is Jackson Hewlett. I look forward to working with you in the future. I know Sam and Nina are going to be there to answer any questions. Again, thank you so much, and we look forward to partnering with you in the future.
All right, great. Thank you, Jackson, so much.
Is he Jackson Hewlett, the lawyer?
Right.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Jackson is a fantastic resource. Jackson's a fantastic resource for us, and will continue to be a fantastic resource. All of our content specialists are amazing and know these programs to be able to help. We will be around. We're going to be here until all of you leave. So if you need to ask us any questions or come up, I know some people went a little bit over time. So if you have any questions now, real quick, for the group that you want to just quickly say, or we are welcome to stay after, hang out. If you want another dice, you want a pen, you want a granola bar before you leave, come grab it from us. Okay? And
Pizza, granola bar, your choice. Okay.
Hey,
Caltrack, Calview, let's hear.
Yes, I mean, you also have the tutoring with the Calc chat.
Yep.
I mean, so all the problems are still, not all of them, but you still have all the odd number problems?
Yes, so in CalcView, you have it's like blue highlighted in 6 through 12. Those
Well, I
problems.
just want to know Algebra 1.
Okay, Algebra 1. Blue problems,
Those have Calc View, where an instructor is working it out on a whiteboard for the student. Calc Chat is different. It's an online tutoring system. The teachers, when they're building an assignment, they'll see that for, it's like half of the problems, there's the ability to access. They cannot access a tutor for every problem. We'd have them chatting with tutors for every single one. And when you go to push out an assignment, it says, would you like to give the student access to the online tutor? That's Calc Chat. Or do you want to disable this? If it's enabled, they can, after they've used the video and the check answers, whatever supports you've provided before them first, then they get the prompted to, would you like to chat with a live tutor? And again, they're trained in Socratic reasoning. They're not going to give the student the answer. They're going to lead them
It's
to the
real
next
people,
question.
that's the part that always just time.
And chat records are saved for 3 years. Administration can pull those records. All chat records are saved.
So the chat, the Calc Chat spells out solutions. Who wants the butter pop? No problem.
Blue problem.
The blue problem.
Yep.
Okay.
Calc View is blue problems. You go on there. We also have tutorial videos for every single question in the platform. So if they wanted to, if they don't get a question and you've enabled video support for them, they can watch a video right there when they're taking the problem. Or they could go to Calc View and see a professor write out the problem.
Okay, yeah, that's what I know.
Before you all leave, please take the samples, please take, the dice. If you want to come talk to us afterwards. I will say one more thing. We can't thank you enough. It's an honor to be here with you tonight. I know it's a long evening for you all, but we are so glad that we could end it with you all. So congratulations, you made it through. We know you have a big decision to make, and I will kind of use some research that I had too, but we know one of the parts of your vision for Riverview Gardens is that you put students at the center of your decision. And what better way than to have Mac and You, where we literally put your students in the center of Mac. It is in the title. It's in the title.
And one more disclaimer, if we did not have your grade level here, please request that sample. We'll send it directly to your school. Yes. Yes, Sam?
I may have a first grade here. I'll check. Please take the samples. If there's any more that you need, please let me know. Kim, thank you so much. Everybody, thank you so much for having us. Get out of here, ask me questions, whatever you like.
All right, I just want to say really quick, this was recorded. It's going to be on the district's website tomorrow. There is an evaluation survey. There is an evaluation survey for all the vendors, and it's already on the district's homepage. If you go to the district's homepage and you click survey in the top right corner, it takes you right to it, okay? And then on January 3rd, there's going to be a vendor selection where you're literally going to say, this is the one I want. All right, so that's going to be shared with all of you, okay? All right, thank you for coming.
If anyone wants to take any food home, please help yourself.
Oh, I gotta go get your food, yeah.
And if I don't?
They might
Smoke.